Welcome back to the Half Palmy. My name is Josh List and I'm here with my co-host Oliver Hunter. How you going, Ollie?
Good, mate. We're back again.
We're back 3 times in a row here.
We're M&Ming this shit.
Yeah, I've almost got the hair for it. I need a bit of a trim.
You are Slim Shady, peroxide blonde.
Yeah, slightly slim shady over here.
Yeah, I don't know. You can sing, so if you're not careful, mate, you'll be in a boy band like it's 1994. So, yeah.
Speaking of singing, I definitely don't have the voice for that tonight. I was telling Ollie before we started recording that my voice is as close to shot to shit as I think it's ever been.
I find you fascinating on many different levels as a human, but one aspect I find is you do a lot of things that heavily rely on your voice. So podcasting and comedy, and I feel like at least once a week we have a conversation on text that involves your voice not being well. So that's an interesting thought I've had.
You're right. And in the past, I would have thought, because while I've known you, I was working in a sales job where I talked all day, every day.
Yeah.
And I think lately it's because I've had this crazy ass hay fever thing going on. And the medication that I got from my doctor, he basically just said, because we've talked in the past about how I've had issues with different meds on my voice. He basically just said, look, it's either your voice is going to be rubbish and you're not going to cough, or you can not take this and your voice might be better.
Yeah.
So it's particularly horrendous at the moment. And I hosted an open mic. An actual show yesterday. And there was 10 comedians. So I got up, I think in total, 11 times.
Yeah, 11, yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously you do the comedy chat afterwards and then you're just blowing your voice out more. Yeah, so it's in real good shape today.
Yeah, I just thought I'll crowbar back in a gag about that boy bands and NSYNC. The boy bands and the blonde hair. The more podcasts we do, we become in sync with each other. So bang! I lost the momentum. I lost the moment. I just had to get in there. It's a good joke. I thought it was.
It's actually pretty good at staying in. So hopefully it's good. So.
Oh man, how was Sunday? Or we recorded this Monday night. Yesterday, you referenced the gig with Jared Goundry, I believe, came back to Albury and did an afternoon gig.
He did. It was at a venue called Two Fingers, which is probably only really big enough. It's a small whiskey bar here on the border. It's probably big enough maybe for 30 people with no tables. And if you have the little tables in there like they do for their open mic, sometimes it's like 20 people. It's an amazing little venue. It looks great. There was, I think, 8 or 9 local people that were all doing their best fives that they've been working on at my open mics and other things for probably nearly 6 months. So all the local people went well. I got a few gags in between people. That was fun. The crowd was amazing. As you would like to say, it was a bit of a kill box. Particularly for Goundry. I don't think we found it that way. It just really hit a peak when he got up there, and I've seen him, I think 3 times in the last month, and he was the best that I've seen him yesterday. So.
That's all. Yeah. I think that is the thing about small venues sometimes. Like I've heard Killbox in an American context where these like New York style comedians that just are in like basements with low ceilings and like pack it in like that sort of venue, and it's just the sound and the laughs just reverberate off the roof. They bounce off the walls and the roof, and it's just this box of just mayhem. And I think that is the beauty of small venues, sometimes 20-seaters, that once you get going in a 20-seat room, like it just becomes this like chaotic comedy. I don't know, chaotic comedy bliss of laughing and you're like, how good's this?
It was, as you said, it was during the day, and like they actually can make it pretty dark in there. They've got pretty heavy curtains that they close up when it's not open. And I was going to close those, and we decided to leave them open to put a bit more light in the room because there wasn't really room for like a tower with a light or a spotlight.
Yeah.
And at least for me, it's funny because if you said go do a gig right now, I would want the lights off. I would want as little of the audience visible as possible. So in my own mind, I can pretend that the only people I'm performing to are the people right down the front.
Yeah.
And I can't see everyone. But hosting, it actually really helped to be able to see more people.
Yes. Yep.
Because I could get more of a feel on how they were feeling about the show as it was moving along. So it actually, all in all, even the thing I was most like, oh, it's going to be a weird time of the day for people to go sit down and laugh, it feels to me still like a nighttime activity. And it's probably because I haven't done enough of those awesome shows during the day where if people are up for laughing, it doesn't matter what time it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was all in all, it was great. And Hannah, which is his partner, she's also a comedian. She came down and she did the feature spot and she was great. So it was awesome. It was a pretty high quality show. The people that were there have told me they thought it was really great.
Oh, awesome. And was it a paid ticket?
Yeah, I think it was about $18, like including. Yeah, so it was sub $20. And there was 11 performers, I think, from memory.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, I love since I think we've talked about it already on a previous app, but maybe it's with all your work and a couple other guys, but in that between Albury and Wagga, there's a lot more happening outside the Riverina Comedy Club run by Dane and Eleanor, which we've talked about as well.
Yeah,
which is awesome because I mean they've done a great job, but you know just to rely on their gig to be the functioning or them to make sure a comedy scene functions in the Riverina is tough for them and for everyone else. So it's awesome that other gigs are happening and you're doing a lot of that work, which is cool.
And it's something I didn't, although I really appreciated it at the time, I didn't really understand how much legwork they were doing to develop people.
Yes.
As well as like now they don't have as much pressure to be doing workshops during the week leading up to shows and traveling to Albury before the Albury show. Like all these things that they were doing, it's hours and hours of their life and money and time. And obviously Dane could have been spending that preparing for his own act as well.
Doing his own shit. Yeah.
And now they're not, I mean, they're still heavily involved in developing people. Like the first few people, as you would know, Ollie, on those lineups are normally someone who's coming up out of now what is the open mic scene. We actually have a little bit of an open mic scene.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think there's 3 or 4 shows now a month that you would consider good places to develop around here.
Just to do, you have something to go to and it's building that. There's a little bit of there's not a little bit, there is a comedy crowd that to a point that they know, from what I can tell, that they know that an open mic's an open mic, especially in Wagga. I mean, Wagga, it's a comedy town now.
Yeah.
Dane and Eleanor have built this juggernaut of a thing that people know what they're getting when they go to their show, especially.
Yeah. It's funny whenever I say, we've got four as many as like 5 or 6 opportunities to perform in Albury Wodonga sometimes at the moment, if you include maybe a trip to Wagga once during the month. To people in your Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, if they're listening, they're probably thinking, well, that's not that much, but it's literally 400% more than what we had 2 years ago when you still lived here.
That's my point. And that's why I appreciate it, because I when I was there, when I moved back, I didn't do that. Like I didn't, for whatever reason, I didn't decide I'll find a space to put an open mic on. And I mean, that's just my thing at the time. I don't know what I had going on, but for whatever reason, I didn't have the drive to, like, I wouldn't say, like, I knew that that's how I'd get gigs, like create your own gig, create your own space. But yeah, it's awesome that you and the other guys have decided that I can't leave at the moment to move to the Melbournes or the Sydneys. But I think, I also appreciate that being from there and being from the country, to getting up once a week on average, sometimes, or four gigs a month, and sometimes that's once a week, twice a week. That's awesome. And I think sometimes down here I get caught up because I live in Melbourne now, that I have to get up 4 times a week to make it worthwhile.
Yeah.
But I think in my head I go, but then I just have to talk myself off that ledge sometimes and go, no, if you just get up, like I say I'm back on that month as a period, if I get up 4 times a month, 5, sometimes that's twice a week, sometimes it's 3 times a week, and one week I don't get up at all. But if I use a month as a marker, if I get up 4 to 6 times a month, that's all you need. That's all you need to do to keep it ticking over.
Yeah.
I'd love to be up, 3 times a week, 2 to 4 a week, doing 15 spots a month.
Yeah.
That's also you're still viable if you don't do that.
Yeah.
And I think we as comedy fans, like globally, I guess New York, but America and New York specifically, I think we listen to those sort of guys, and they're just, they're doing their thing, and we're like, oh, to be a comedian, you have to get up twice a night. Sometimes that's just one, it's not possible in Australia, even for professionals.
No,
like it's not actually viable. There isn't the volume, and two, it's just not there. Like it's
the other thing is, I think it was Gary Vida say, I think it was him, a New York comedian that's one of those, he does mountains of shows still, like even though he's now quite well known, he still does heaps. He said that like New York, if you're doing enough of those and you get to a certain level, you can actually increase how many shows you do because every little spot they do in New York pays something.
Yes.
Whereas if you wanted to get 7 shows a week, I'm assuming in Australia, you would probably be doing multiple open mics, and you've got to buy a drink, you've got to get there, you've got to travel. Like getting around Sydney is always been tough, and Melbourne is just bigger and bigger all the time. There's a lot of cost now. Like that's the thing that surprises me when people are talking about doing this and they're not professionals. I'm like, if you're going out and just buying 1 or 2 beers now in a venue, you're probably doing $20 or $30 a night just to support the venue, which is what you're meant to do. Like you have to, or they won't do it.
And then when you're at a bar, especially little bars, you're like, oh well, I'm here, I might as well just get a drink.
Yeah.
And then that's $7. Like you said, it's a 20 to 25. And then if you're lucky, some of these they do offer like 1 or 2 drink tickets.
Yeah.
But yeah, even if not, you just naturally, even if you're like, sometimes it's just subconscious. You're like, oh, I'm here. I'm here. I'll just buy one. And then you're like, oh, well, now I've done that 5 times or 3 times this week, plus my travel, and I'm looking at,
I did, I think, nearly $20 the other night in Albury, which obviously is not as expensive as a Melbourne or Sydney for drinks. It was close to $20 for 3 soft drinks.
Yeah.
I think they were $6 each.
For soft drink too, like,
Yeah. Like, even if you're planning on not getting a DUI and avoiding that fine, you're broke anyway, so you might as well.
Yeah, mate, what we do for our passions, mate, as they say. Sometimes I wonder, if I didn't love it, it wouldn't make any sense. Anyway, I thought we were discussing earlier what we're going to do today. We thought another top 5.
Yeah, that was fun last week. So
and our golden eras concept, I think, needs a lot more depth, and that's a whole series in itself. So that is coming. But yeah, top 5s are fun, and we got another one. The theme this week, the topic this week, I'm just going to get my notes up because I've done a bit of research, is condiments and sauces. Top 5 condiments and sauces. Now, Josh, I have a question about condiments and sauces, and now let me throw this at you and kick it back in my face if I'm being an idiot. But so what? I have this question as I was doing the top 5. A question that came up to me: what defines a condiment or sauce, and or when does something become a condiment or sauce?
Oh, you really that one at the end there. That's the point at which it becomes it is more complex discussion, but I'm up for both.
So
I think my first reaction is that it's not actually dependent on the food type itself. It's dependent on the delivery mechanism.
Okay.
So if it comes in a jar or or a bottle you can squeeze, condiment. Yes. If it comes in a boat, sauce.
Okay. So I guess a broader question I've got here in my notes: does it, being a liquid, consider it a sauce and a condiment? I consider sauce and condiment to be one and the same sometimes. So the example I've got is cheese. As its solid form, you would not consider it a condiment or a sauce because it's its own product. It's its own thing. We could do top 5 cheeses if we wanted. That could be a later discussion.
And it will be.
And it will be. Because I love cheese and I love what it does to my spirit. But my question then is, if you melt cheese, which is a wonderful thing to do, does it become a sauce or a condiment? Because you can put melted cheese. I've had it. You can melt cheese on things and it's not necessarily a liquid doesn't become liquid because you can melt it on corn chips and nachos, but it's more a spread. But you can melt cheese down to liquid form, and I've also seen it being poured on things. So does it then become a condiment or sauce?
Well, you're talking about boat cheese. Boat cheese is a sauce.
Yeah, because you have cheese sauce and you have roast veggies and roast like your chicken at Christmas. If I'm having a family roast or a Christmas roast and Mum's whipping up the roast, if cauliflower and cheese sauce is not within the options, within the selections, I'm calling somebody because I'm not happy about it. So I guess maybe the point is that there are certain contexts where cheese is a sauce because there are cheese sauces.
Yes. Look, I think that might be the outlier case of a food that is just so fucking great in every every type and delivery method. It can just jump. It's like a world champion triathlete.
Yeah.
Just dominating multiple delivery types. Look, here's how I would define it this is how I wrote my list. This isn't how we have to go through this, but I was working off, is it spreadable or squeezable?
Okay.
If it's squeezable, given that's like getting back to your viscosity comment about the liquid, I think if it's squeezable, it's probably more saucy. And if it's spreadable, it is condimenty.
Okay. Yeah, love that.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. The cheese, it transcends this discussion. It becomes its own organism, and it deserves more than we're giving it right now. We will give it more one day.
We're doing a podcast right now, in part as an homage to something that relies on cheese.
Yeah. Yes.
So cheese is bigger than podcasting. Like, we've got to get that out of there right away.
I didn't even think of that, but we are doing this. The title of the pod heavily relies on the use of cheese. I would say it is what makes a palmy a palmy.
Yes, if I described to you the layers of ingredients of a palmy and then didn't mention cheese, you would say, I'm never eating that in my life.
Yeah, because a palmy with just a bit of red sauce. A schnitzel. It's not even that. It's a schnitzel with a bit of red sauce. Yeah. Okay.
Like that type of tomato sauce wouldn't even be in my top 50 sauces to put on a schnitzel without cheese.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, you're not doing it.
No, it's not.
I like if it wasn't for the cheese and it was just the sauce. At that point. I'm just raw dogging the schnitzel.
Right, top fives. So I think we've kind of ballparked it a little bit. I think we just do our lists as they were.
Yep. And
we just roll from there. But I'll preface this by saying I lent more heavy saucy.
Yeah.
Because I thought I had you pegged more as a sauce guy than a condiment guy. I don't know why I thought that.
Well, see, I didn't. I thought I was well versed and well researched in this topic, but I didn't break it down to sauce v condiment, or I haven't done two. Then this is probably a discussion for off air now. But I've got one list. Have you got two lists?
I've got one list. I wasn't doing
awesome. Yeah. Okay.
So for anyone that wasn't tuned in last episode, the way we're doing the top five is essentially 5 down to 1. Yep. One being our top pick, the go-to. So take it away, Al.
And I also thought you did this, I think, off your own on the fly last time. But I have also included, which I will say before the number one, I've included honourable mentions and dishonourable mentions.
Okay, I want to hear both of those.
Yeah. So, okay. Number 5 in my top 5 sauces or condiments. This is a bit of nostalgia. But I think number 5, it cannot be in any countdown. It cannot be in any countdown, and that is tomato sauce. I think it's versatile. It's consistent. It's on pies, sausage rolls, it's sausage and bread. It does it all. It's not flashy. It's like a sort of seventh man on a basketball team role player, does its thing, gets its credit when it's due, but if you have to, you don't hear about it. Just does its thing in the background sometimes.
Yeah.
But it can come to the fray in the clutch. So tomato sauce, number 5. Number 4, garlic aioli. I think it's usually in a bottle, Josh. So it's a squeezable bottle. So I it wasn't something I had a lot of like as a kid, but as an adult, and I go, a lot of pubs or breweries, and you have, it's a good dippable one as well. I think dips are a whole other top 5 as well. But I do like an aioli. I do like what it does for the food you're eating. So I'm going to put garlic aioli in there, number 4. Number 3. This is where this was where it got interesting, because 1 through 3 I think is interchangeable.
Oh,
like it really got tough for me.
Got a big 3 in the sauce and condiment department.
and this might throw you a little bit, number 3, Josh. So hang in there. But number 3, and this wasn't in my initial. I had a few drafts of my countdown. Number 3, maple syrup.
Oh.
I love pancakes. I love maple syrup. I have maple syrup. Like obviously you consider that as a coupling of pancakes and not many other things. But I think it goes well with ice cream. I had it just with some yogurt and berries the other night because I was trying to be a bit healthier. So I threw that in with that maple syrup. I'm gonna make maple syrup and pancakes. When I have a pancake, I'm at a point with maple syrup where I want to be having pancakes with my maple syrup. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. Like I want there to be so much maple syrup.
Essentially, your pancakes are like a banana chair in a pool of maple syrup, just sitting on the surface.
Yes, I want there to be enough maple syrup by the end of the pancakes where I can just tip the thing back and drink the syrup. Like I would never drink the syrup out of the straight. I'm not shotting syrup.
Yeah.
But at the conclusion of the meal, I want there to be one final sort of kicker where I've got to drink that last bit of syrup.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at with maple syrup, and I make no apologies. Number two, we mentioned Sunday roast, Christmas roast before, but I think gravy. I don't know. I don't think there's anything more need to be said. You can throw it on chips. I think chips and gravy.
Yeah,
I'll take over chips and tomato sauce. It's not a frequent thing. Usually, when I get some hot chips, sauce is what's available.
Yeah. But
if I go to a takeaway shop and they're like, "Do you want some gravy with those chips?" I'm like, I'm in the right spot. And like maple syrup, I like my gravy to be like, is where someone goes, "You got enough gravy there?" And I go, "Well, to answer your question, no, I don't. Give me some more gravy." So I'll give you a little refresh before I go number 1. Number 5, tomato sauce. Number 4, garlic aioli. Number 3, maple syrup. Number 2, gravy. Before I hit number 1, as I said, I'll go dishonorable mention first. Josh, we might have an agreement on this. It might be in yours, but pesto sauce, pesto. I don't know, like I don't like it. It's a weird thing. I've only really come to terms with this in the last sort of 12 months or 24 months. Before then, I just white knuckled it when pesto was on things, trying to convince myself that I liked it. Because apparently you had to like it as an adult. I think it was a prerequisite once you hit the age of 25. I thought that was just part of living as an adult. You had to like pesto.
Yeah.
But now I've just embraced that I don't, and it's quite liberating.
Yeah. Well, anyone that's seen me do comedy in the last 6 months would know that I fucking hate it.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with that. That was definitely my dishonorable mention.
Yeah. So that's my dishonorable mention. Honorable mention's got a few. Tartare sauce. Love fish and chips. Tartare sauce, you throw them on there. Tartare sauce it's a singular condiment. I don't see you putting it with other things other than seafood, which I think is okay. I also like it though because when you have fish and chips, if you get a bit on the chips, you don't actively aim to put tartare sauce on the chips, but it doesn't take away from the chip.
No.
Yeah, that's my first honorable mention. Second is mustard. Again, don't have it on a lot of things, but hot dog, sausage, even a sandwich. But yeah, mustard. It's a rare one for me in my repertoire of condiments and sauces, but it does get an honorable mention. And again, this is a weird one. My last honorable mention. This opens up the discussion again for what is a condiment, but I just threw it in there. Sprinkles, hundreds and thousands, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. Yeah, I see your face, Josh. I just threw it in there. Maybe it's a bit
I think because you went so hard on pesto, that filled me with so much joy.
Yeah.
I'm going to let it slide. Sprinkles is in.
Yeah. Okay. Now I say it, I'm like, oh, that was a misstep. But I am on board. I remember having ice cream, fairy bread. Yeah. I consider it a condiment. And just probably a bit like tomato sauce, bit of nostalgia there. But my number one, finally reaching number one, sweet chili. Sweet chili sauce. It's on wedges. It's on chicken. It's on all the meats, in my opinion. You can throw it on chips, wedges. It's for sour cream wedges, and sweet chili sauce. Then you got that's a triple threat. I think.
Oh,
it is unmatched in the food world. Sweet chili sauce, sour cream, and wedges.
I'm now hungry and also in complete agreement.
Yeah, that's my top five.
That is a great top five. I'll start with my dishonourable mention. It's been talked about. The word will not be said again.
Yeah.
Just for those listening, go back if you missed it. Yeah. My honourable mention is, and this is where I was getting like maybe a little bit too finicky. Can I remove the sauce from a meal? This is what I mean is, although, if you eat chicken nuggets, you probably have sweet and sour sauce. But can I remove the sweet and sour sauce from sweet and sour chicken from an actual Chinese restaurant and have that as a standalone sauce?
Interesting, and I'm on board with it. Yeah, I'm going to say yes.
Because I think it is quintessential to making any sweet and sour meal work is that particular sauce, but it's not something you find as an option on 30 other things. It's just in that food.
Very specific, very niche.
Yeah. So that's my honourable mention because I wasn't sure if I could disassociate it from the meal. But I would drink Chinese restaurant sweet and sour sauce out of a gravy boat if you gave me the option. So,
okay.
So we got that. My dishonourable is the sauce that will not be named.
Maybe for your future little reference, that word, well, I'm going to say it, pesto, becomes like blasphemy on this our little world of this podcast. If we want to say like a word that we don't like, if we want to use like a real harsh derogatory term, we say, oh mate, the other night I was at the gig and mate was a real pesto.
Okay, I love that. So my number 5 is, and this can be good and bad depending on where you go, but if you get a good one, pub mushroom sauce.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, so it just, as long as it's average or better, it's in my top 5. I'm a big fan of the mushroom sauce.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4 for me was sweet chili.
Okay.
And I like it on certain things by itself, but I agree that there is no greater culinary pairing in my mind than having a sauce, and we'll call sour cream some form of condiment. You smash the saucy condiment together and you've got, I don't know what you call it, but
it's a real potion of just...
that's a perfect word. It's a mystical connection of saucy condiment that I can't describe. So that just because it pairs so well with something else that I like and they become greater than the sum of their parts, I'm going with sweet chili. Number 3, and it's not nostalgic for me because I still have it on almost everything, is tomato sauce. And I used to be a White Crow fan growing up.
Okay, yeah.
And now I'm not sure what it is that I buy, but it's a different brand. And when I do, I like the flavour of White Crow the most. But I've noticed it is like really liquid. It's not as viscous as many of the other tomato sauces. And that is something I never noticed as a kid, that you pour it onto like a pie or something and it's like it's just red water. That doesn't really.
Yeah.
So I'm less of a fan of that, but overall, I'm still a fan of the genre of tomato sauce.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, because we were talking about sauces and condiments, I just went hard condiment for my number 2. And it's a really specific use case, but it's the thing I've eaten the most in my life, and that's Vegemite.
Yes.
Because Vegemite toast has been a staple of my whole culinary existence.
Yeah.
And I know that's hard condiment, like it's thicker than anything else we've talked about. But I just have to have it in there because it's been on my shelf and in my cupboard since I was
beginning of time.
Beginning of time, yeah. My number 1, and this is something that's less common now, but it used to be slightly more common, is top-notch, fucking mind-blowing Béarnaise sauce.
Okay, yeah.
If it's a Béarnaise and it's like mind-boggling level, perfectly executed, I would have that by itself, just the boat, served on a second plate so I could pour it into my mouth.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't matter if it's spilled. It's the single greatest thing I've ever had, I reckon, in my mouth.
IV drip stuff. Just just get it in me. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Like we used to do a thing on the winery walkabout where you'd lay your head back into the aisle of the bus and people would pour cask wine into your mouth. It was called a goon layback.
Yeah.
Like I dream of a Béarnaise layback. I think that I reckon I don't have a lot of honourable mentions, but I think that between those, I think we've covered off all the best sauces. But I'm sure there's people out there going, what about barbecue? What about this? What about that?
Yeah.
Well, if you're on barbecue, then just don't talk to me. Sorry.
Yeah. I think, and clearly we're on the same page about barbecue, but I think we're getting on a slightly different territory now, but I think barbecue is overrated dramatically. Gets a whole lot more bunch of credit than it deserves for what it's bringing to the table.
Mm.
Yeah.
I always have agreed with you, but what I didn't realize because if I told you I've gone down like a stupid number of TikTok, this is how you make sauces reels.
Okay, I love
hundreds of them. Sometimes I'll just watch them. Like, this is how you make this. Barbecue sauce is in a lot of shit. Like as a base ingredient, and none of it's that color. So I never would have thought that, but it's in heaps of stuff.
As a starter,
as
the base and as the foundation of other sauces.
But is that an indictment again of barbecue that it can't stand alone?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
it's like coriander and fucking the sauce that will not be named.
Yeah,
the coriander by itself is bad enough, and they friggin' mix it up and make it liquid.
Yeah. No, it's with you. Yeah, the Voldemort of sauces. Yeah. Anyway, we're coming towards the end, but I do have one more little thought or question or something to bring to the table for you, Josh. There's experience I had recently. Bad small talk, not necessarily people that are bad at it. I think there's two. When I say bad small talk, I mean people that are bad at it, and then also the situation for it, and also the type of small talk is what it's a multi-pronged concept. And the story I have is I was at the podiatrist the other week, and it was a Monday afternoon. It was a 4:30 appointment Monday afternoon, and my first appointment with this podiatrist. Never met her before. She was a younger podiatrist, I think fresh out of uni type vibe, and she's doing her thing. I was like, yep. Doing what you do as a podiatrist with feet. Yep, that's what I'll say. And I said Monday afternoon, 4:30, and we're sort of, the general chit chat. In that circumstance, I don't know about you, but in those sort of circumstances, I don't need to talk. I'll say hello, how are you? But if I've got a good barber, I'll chat to my barber.
Mm.
But like podiatrists, we can say hello, how are you? Thanks for cutting my toenails. But we don't need to have a back and forth. We don't need to build a relationship in that moment. So she's doing her thing, and we had a general, this, as I said, the typical small talk. And then she hits me with on a Monday afternoon at 4:30. So what's on for your weekend? Now, mate, tell me what you think about this. But I would consider what's on for your weekend minimum Wednesday chat.
Oh, even that's early.
Yeah, minimum Wednesday afternoon. Not for what's on for your weekend is not 4:30 Monday afternoon. what did you do? She didn't ask me what did you do on the weekend, because that's a typical Monday. That's a typical Monday dead air filler.
Yes.
What did you do?
What'd you get up to?
What'd you get up to on the weekend? What are you got on for the weekend? It's not Monday 4:30. So I was taken aback by that, and I was like, "Well, I don't know. I don't even. I'm just getting over this weekend. Like I don't even know what's happening in 6 days' time. Like I don't." So then we finish up the appointment. She's done her thing. She's done a good job. Feeling good, I guess. I don't know. And then out of nowhere she goes, "Oh, I meant to have basketball tonight, but I don't want to go. I'm feeling a bit out of it." I just like, what? I didn't know. I'd never seen you before in my life.
Oh, this is the first time.
Yeah.
You have no pre-existing interaction.
No, first appointment. Never seen this podiatrist in my life.
She's telling you about the ball sports that she's not going to go do.
Because she's disengaged with her life. It's a real welfare check, clearly. So I just feel a bit out of it. And I sort of sat back again. In my head, I'm going, that's not what you want to hear from a person that's just had sharp objects near your feet. I'm a bit out of it.
It certainly is not.
So if you've got blades near my extremities, I want you well and truly in it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know if you've got anything.
I've got lots to say, but I'm going to keep it short. One, the only person that should be asking prior to Thursday what you're doing on the weekend is someone who may end up doing it with you.
Yes.
If it's one of your mates and they say, "Oh, what's on the weekend?" in a way like asking, "Are we still doing that thing?" or "What's the plan for the thing?" Even that prior to Wednesday is too much. Unless it's in written form, because you can respond to that at any time. But if it's verbal face-to-face, you have no option but to reply at that moment.
Yeah.
They've boxed you into a corner.
Yeah. The only time future weekend chat is acceptable, I think, pre-Wednesday, is if accommodation is involved.
Logistics,
specifically in my book, accommodation, and or interstate travel. So travel and sleeping somewhere else that isn't your home.
Yeah.
But
if you're just going on a long drive, but you're planning to sleep in your own bed, that's Thursday at the earliest.
Yeah. But there's no exceptions really for Monday. What's on for your weekend chat? Anyway, that's
I think I'm more tolerant of small talk than I ever have been from working in retail for the last 3.5 years. Because the majority of the conversations, if I really allowed myself to feel the emotion that I have when each of them start, it wouldn't have been a very successful sales career.
Yeah. Push it down.
Push it down, Josh. Pretend you give a fuck.
Yeah. Anyway, tell us what you think if you're listening out there and you got any thoughts on either condiments or small talk. But I think we've done it again, Josh. Well done.
I want to leave the listeners with one more question. If you could only have one of a Parmigiana's ingredients on the schnitzel and it's not allowed to be cheese, which of the other ingredients would you take on the schnitty?
Great question.
Righto. Thank you, Oliver.
Thank you, Josh.
Bye-bye.